Hi everybody, it's Mark here. It's been a while. I hope you're having a good summer. I haven't been on because I haven't had much to say in terms of the tarot world, but I got rid of 4 decks about a week ago, and I figured that allowed me to bring in one new one. And it's one that I really, really like, and although I haven't been buying RWS style decks for, 4 or 5 years since I discovered Thoth system and was working with it, and through that the Golden Dawn decks, that are clearly Golden Dawn decks, RWS are, but they're not as clear in how they are in showing the Golden Dawn precepts. But in any case, this deck came along and it really just is something different. I don't add decks to my collection unless there's something new they're going to bring to the table. So this one definitely does. It's new as of I think last year. It's called the Unveiled Tarot, and each card has this little window box or panel where you can see another side to the card. It almost takes care of the need for reversals, because you can be looking at one or the other or both and somehow getting an intuitive hit from the juxtaposition, which I'm finding works really, really well. So this Queen of Swords is pretty great because one of her decking cards is the Three of Swords. It's called Sorrow, and here we have her in mourning. And even going back to the earliest writings on the Queen of Swords, we see widow as one of the key words. So I knew when I saw that, I thought, you know what, this style deck is for me. I don't know if you know anything about the Myers-Briggs typing, but I'm an INFJ, and not to go too far into that, but we see patterns, which is why I can do astrology and tarot. We see patterns and everything. But more we see, I don't want to say through people, but we see into people. So this little window kind of behind the facade really, really intrigued me. And I thought, that's a deck I really need to get. The packaging is phenomenal. It's from a New York-based company called Sterling Ethos. I think they did This Might Hurt mass market edition. I don't have that deck. In fact, I was almost going to buy that deck, and then this was the one, and I thought, okay, no, this is really bringing something else. The packaging is phenomenal. You get to the deck, so it stands up. It's very wide. It stands up, very solid. None of that tuck box nonsense, and you access the deck through this flap, and there's a lovely clown to greet you. And then you slide the whole thing out like this, and some of the various cards are decorating the box. And inside we see the deck, and we also see the book. And what is interesting and nice is that the book is hardcover. And so it's a decent book. You can't call it a little white book. The majors all have colored imagery, just a little bit on the minors. But, again, the packaging, the thought that's gone into this, really great. You get 2 extra cards. I won't use them because I don't believe in making up cards beyond the 78. But I have found this deck would be great for world event readings, politics, work, business. I mean, it's good for any kind of reading. You can do love readings and whatever, but I feel there's some war imagery. I feel that it leans heavily into world events, and I would say it's a more male-centric deck. I got rid of the light seers because it was just too female-centric for me, for my purposes, but there are almost as many women as men represented in the deck, so I wouldn't say it's one or the other, but it just has a masculine vibe. And it has a 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, and even further in the past on a couple of cards vibe. And he's kind of aged the cards a little bit. Here's just the Five of Cups. I don't know if you can see this kind of tea-stained aging on some of the cards. Looks very much like the Centennial Rider-Waite-Smith, so I think that was a good idea. And I like that it does seem, that the imagery does seem to give a nod to the decades when I grew up. It feels very familiar. There's no, hipsters and this and that. As you know, I got rid of the light seers, not because of that, but it was almost too modern for me. But you'll see that, like, you don't lose the RWS in a lot of cases. Here's the Two of Swords. You can see the imagery here. But we've also got this other image of a strategist playing chess and having to make a move. So you almost get two meanings per card, which I think is really, really helpful and interesting. But the two extra cards are the Puppeteer and the Mob. So again, that would be maybe just for political and world event kind of reading. So I don't use them. I'm not going to show you all the cards. They're a little bigger than an RWS. They're a little bit wider and a teeny bit higher. They don't have borders, which is nice. And I'll just show you some of my favorite cards and we'll end it there. So I really like this take on the Lovers card. Very modern. So this is probably one of the more modern cards because we didn't have all these devices back in the 60s. But I love how they're just engaged in their own devices when, if they would just look at each other, this other scenario could be happening. It's a choice they're making, and I just really love that extra take on the card. I really love this Hermit card, kind of the alone in the crowd kind of vibe. And the artist is very clever. He put the lamp, that's the Hermit's lamp right there, which I didn't even realize on first looking at the thing. So his name is Jesse Lonergan, and he's apparently a comic book artist who's award-winning. Let me see. Yeah, Lonergan. Okay, so then this is a beautiful strength card. So you can see, if you just do this, you can see the original strength imagery, but when you widen the shot, you see it's a nurse and a patient and a medical situation going on. And it's often a health issue when that card comes up. I love this Hierophant. Everything is the same, except we also have this hippie guru type of religious leader. So again, both. And I like to see keys in the Hierophant, and they put the keys up here that were on the floor in the original RWS. This is the major that made me want the deck, and it probably says a lot about me. It doesn't really reflect on my upbringing, but I guess to an extent it's true for anyone. This Devil card is just mind-blowing for me. So here we have your happy suburban family, but the devil, as we know, lurks within any family dynamic, sometimes much, much more and impactful than in other ways, but we are definitely chained to our families for life. And I just thought this is such a brilliant take on the card that I had to have the deck. Now, a few minors. I like this Four of Wands. It's all the same, except for you'll see that the bride and the groom's bottom halves have been interchanged. So, you can think of the "you complete me" vibe, but I also would think this makes reading for an LGBTQ client easier for them to see into the imagery as well, without having to create an extra card like they do in some decks. Now, I've always said the Four of Swords, I don't know if anyone ever listened to me, but I always said the Four of Swords is fours are stability and concentration and control, and swords are air. And I always thought it's music at its best. And it's Jupiter in Libra by Deccan, which Libra is very musical and cultured. And I always thought, and now here we go. I don't know, he read my mind, but here's someone relaxing. You get the usual imagery, but they're listening to their albums. And I think it's fantastic. And he subtly puts all the swords or the whatever the suit is in the imagery. And sometimes I can find them and sometimes I can't. So here's 1, 2, and that's 3, 4 in the poster. But I'm telling you, some of them, like I think in the 10 of Pentacles, I got up to 9. I cannot find the 10th. So there's a little bit of Where's Waldo in the deck, which is kind of fun too. I think here's a great King of Swords, you know, a general, a strategist, all in the mind, but a tiny, tiny little heart in order to access, you know, what you have to do in war and what you have to sort of put aside to be in that framework. They're very deep cards in their own way, and I love this. This is my signature card, my indicator card, significator. King of Wands, or if it was Thoth, it would be the Prince of Wands. And what we have here is, that's Freddie Mercury at Wimbledon Stadium for Live Aid. And he's just put the King of Wands in there. So you gotta love that. And this last one I'll just show you is the 8 of Cups. It's on the box. It's it's on the interior box. 8 of Cups, moving on. I'm done with this. Have your fun. I'm off to another adventure. So we got this cocktail party going on, and he's out of here. So there's a lot of humor in the deck, and I really appreciate that. And so if you want something that's just another take, I really recommend this deck. I think it'll up your game in a lot of ways. It's only $35, so it's not overpriced, and the quality, like I said, is very good. Here's a very interesting one, very, very similar to the RWS that we know, but if you look closer, the window is a concentration camp guard. So the cards kind of stop you in your tracks, and I don't know if I would use it as a working deck. It might be too upsetting for people, but it works great as a storyboard because he is a comics illustrator. What the deck has, there's a lot of directional cards. So here's your 6 of Cups, you know, being a child again, connecting to your child. Here's the 4 of Cups. She's in an airport, she's kind of feeling emotionally overwhelmed, but she's going in a direction. So when you put the cards together, you really get a story. Anyway, that's it for me for now. Good to be back, and I'll see you again. Bye.